Welcome to Geekview Tavern, where smart folks engage in loose talk about the geeky movies, TV, and comics you love. Remember to like the video, share it with friends, and please subscribe.
In this episode, the guys check out the media battle for geek streaming customers. It's DC versus Marvel, AT&T versus Disney.
Okay, Skeeter, hit the intro. Welcome everybody to Geekview Tavern. This is my friend Tom. Wave, Tom.
And hey, everyone.
And that is our guest Ryan, who's sitting down there at the end of the bar. Yay, Ryan!
Hi, everyone.
So, it's been quite a week. Warner Brothers blew up the entire theater distribution, and Marvel came out and ran over Warner Brothers with a truck. So. That investors' presentation just lit the internet on fire, and so I think we've got plenty of stuff to talk about. What do you think, Mr. Ryan? You read that Heidi McDonald article, right, about all the problems that the Hollywood people were having with Warner Brothers. What was your take on that?
Yeah, no, I did, and I think that's right. I think. The biggest problem they had was clearly a lack of communication with their distribution partners and their producing partners. And, I don't think you can cause such a cataclysmic shift in the way you're going to be distributing your big blockbuster films for 2021 and not notify anyone. And that certainly feels like a failure of AT&T more than Warner Brothers.
Sure.
But it also lines up with what AT&T did with DC Comics too, which is, oh, by the way, we're going to switch distribution out of Diamond to these two little distributors, and we're going to completely change around the direct market. And we're not going to tell anybody till later. And so it really seems like this is an AT&T policy as opposed to some sort of misstep.
Yeah. Well, it feels to me, and I've felt this way for a long time, that somebody way above anybody that's an executive at officially an executive DC, I feel like those guys got this edict handed to them, which is, yep, we're going digital. We don't care about selling magazines. We don't want to have to pay a printer to print magazines. We don't want to have to pay a guy to ship magazines. We're just going to produce the intellectual property stories and characters, and we're just going to distribute them on the internet. And if we get paid, great. If we don't, I guess that's okay too. Which is a weird way to run business as far as I'm concerned. Do you do any digital reading, Ryan, at all on comics, or are you still buying your stuff? How are you getting your geek read on?
I think it's a little bit of both. So I do subscribe to Marvel Unlimited, their sort of on-demand library, and then I subscribe to DC Universe for a variety of content. I'm going to keep it for the DC comics whenever they switch over to be a comics only platform. But that's really sort of for back title things. So new issues of with the big X-Men relaunch, about a year old now at this point, probably. Any of the Batman stuff, Spider-Man, and even any of the Image items that are coming along, any of the interesting sort of creator-owned stuff there. I'm still going to the game shop for, or the comic shop for.
Right. And so they also announced a whole bunch of stuff about Spider-Man, which isn't really, that's not really Disney, right? All the new Spider-Man 3 stuff that you were telling me about. I think they're making a live action Spider-Verse, I think, if I had to guess. Does that sound about right? Isn't that sort of what the scuttlebutt is, Ryan?
Yeah, it certainly seems to be, and it's hard to peel back what's rumor, what's fun sort of Twitter chatter that everybody's going to freak out about, or versus sort of what's actual news, considering certainly Sony and Marvel aren't coming out and saying anything. But I know Molina was seen around set, so I think there's certainly credibility to that. Everything I'm reading and hearing says, Garfield and Maguire, if they can kind of close the deal with Toby to get him to come back, definitely seem to go. Some of the other ones you hear about, Matt Murdock. Maybe we're getting our head ourselves, but how much truth is to that one.
I forgot about
certainly
Charlie
it feels
Cox.
like they're building to that. Yeah. But yeah, certainly it feels like they're building to a live action Spider-Verse and the way they're bringing in Doctor Strange. And certainly, right, part of the big investor presentation at Disney was Marvel talking about how they will be, tying in Doctor Strange 2 with Spider-Man 3. And so, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of leveraging of the multiverse in that way.
Right. And then it all starts with WandaVision, which starts in January. I mean, that's right around the corner. Right? I mean, doesn't WandaVision start January 15th or January 20th, something like that?
Yeah, right around there.
It'll be on Disney Plus, and then we're off to the races. I guess off to the races might be overstating it, right? There'll be fits and starts, and there'll be blank spots in between. But I think based on the rollout, it looks like Feige's going to try to keep those blank spots to a minimum, because it looks like right after the 10 weeks of WandaVision are over, then Winter Soldier and the Falcon and Winter Soldier starts.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You had no Marvel content in 2020. Yeah, you had no 2020 Marvel content for a variety of reasons. And now suddenly in 2021, we're going to have, 2 or 3 movies, 4 TV shows at least, lots of sort of crossover tie-ins. Loki's all dealing with time travel. WandaVision's going to be dealing with, probably some variant of House of M, you would have to think, or at least sort of kind of critical parts of that storyline. So it'll be very, they're definitely heading in a very interesting direction.
Sure. And What If is mixed in there too. Did you see the trailer for that?
I did. Interesting animation style. I'm not generally a big fan of sort of alternate reality one-off takes, but I think it looks very interesting. I'm, as anybody who knows me knows, a huge Peggy Carter fan, so I'm excited to see her sort of, Lady Captain America. I think that's really great. So yeah, I think they're going to do some really interesting things there.
Does anybody know if Haley's doing the voice?
She is.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And it certainly, in the trailer, it certainly sounded like her too.
Yeah. I'm so impressed, by the way, with that animation, because it looks like computer assisted hand drawn animation, as opposed to some of the Pixar stuff that looks like they just piled polygons on top of each other and added lighting effects, right?
Well, or the stuff that they run on network television, which looks like they left out parts of the drawing.
Right.
So,
The in-betweeners in Korea were
Right,
drunk at the time, and they went, whatever.
No, but I understand that when you're making that stuff for TV, your budget is a lot less. And
Sure.
when you're doing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse type of animation, you have, well, it's not fair to say you have money to burn, but yeah, you've got way more money to fiddle with and way more resources than you do if you're doing 65 X-Men episodes for regular television.
Yeah, well, and in keeping with our theme of smart talk, or smart people with loose talk, and the tavern, what are you drinking, Ryan? What do you got there?
I am drinking this. Yeah, this is going to be a shameless plug for. It's a Fort Williams Ale English Bitter.
Oh my goodness!
Lighting's not great, but yeah, from Pedals and Pints, sort of the new local brewery in the area.
That's they brew that locally.
Yes, yeah.
You got a refreshment there, Mr. Tom?
Yeah, but it pales in comparison to what anybody else is drinking. I'm drinking.
I'll bet I can go lower than you, unless you got water there.
No, well, you can't go lower than me unless you've got grape knee-high or orange Fanta.
I got some Yoo-hoo.
yeah. My colon won't let me have Yoo-hoo. Not that anybody cares. I'm having Kirkland carbonated spring water.
All right, well,
because it's still early in my day.
I have my regular glass full of ice, and it's full of generic diet soda. So that's. So what, like, from a financial point of view, though, Ryan, where do you think Warner Brothers sees the money in basically not wanting to make the money that's going to be made at the theaters. I mean, they couldn't make it anyway, so I guess that's moot. But like, how did I mean, I think you've got a good sense mentally of how, you know, their thought process is going, and you're a big consumer, so have at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been thinking a lot about this, and certainly I don't have any insight to the the unit economics of a viewer on HBO Max, but it's I think it's a lot of the same way they view any of the HBO content, right? You can't sell an individual HBO show and run the math the same way you would on a theatrical release. And so
Right.
you're doing it to keep people engaged for the $15 a month that it costs you to do HBO. I think it's a lot of the same thing, right? It's the same model that Netflix has, which is it's really about being able to capture, kind of capture the market in that way of having people continue to pay for the product and not just drop in and out. If I think Starz is sort of the perfect example, right? My wife and I love Outlander. If Outlander's not on, we're not paying for Starz. And so I think
Right.
they're very much so incentivized. Warner Brothers is to continue generating content in that way, and you have to sort of change the way you measure success for films like this. I mean, I can't imagine the complexity of trying to work out the back end deals for Wonder Woman 2, right? And having to pay Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins and all the sort of back end work they had to do. Because how do you even really sort of measure financial success on a film that's being released to streaming in that way? But I think it really is just sort of about keeping people paying the $15 a month.
Yeah, we were mocking poor Warner Brothers in a call the other night because basically they paid Patty and the timing doesn't even work out for this joke, so bear with me. But they paid Patty Jenkins $10 million, and 10 minutes later she's doing a Star Wars movie. Well, I guess that 10 million bought them a lot of loyalty, huh?
Well, it bought him not getting sued, I think, is what it really did.
Yeah.
You could look at it as a bribe, but you could also look at it as, well, here's the thing that, we're sorry we went to streaming. We'll pay you what could have been your participation fee early, and now you can do what you want. And because I don't think they're going to do another Wonder Woman 3 until, 3 years from now, if ever.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
And also Warner's, people forget that when the first Wonder Woman came out, Warner's almost sank it. They had no confidence in it, and they were going to cut the number of theaters that it went to, and they were going to cut the advertising for it. And it was only sort of after the fact where everybody just sort of went to the movie that Warner said, "Oh,
Who was it, Tom? Who was it? Was it William Goldman that said nobody in Hollywood knows anything?
Nobody knows anything. They just have really good jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
they get paid very well.
It does beg the question: would John Carter have actually done better if Disney hadn't gotten cold feet and pulled back all the promo on it? I mean, it's not as bad as its receipts, that's for sure.
But you could also make the case that Warner moving their 2021 releases to streaming is an easy way to write down movies that they see as failures.
Oh, sure.
And so because they've seen the dailies for Dune, and they've seen the dailies for what's the other movie? The other big movie. Can't remember. And so
the one that's not Wonder Woman?
Yeah, the one that's not Wonder Woman.
Okay, good. Just checking.
The only one that's like Top Gun Maverick is the other one.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't see a giant demand for those movies in theaters. They're not going to drive. I mean, Dune's not. No matter how many people love Dune, it's not the 4-quadrant tentpole that we want it to be. It's just not. And so, given how Tenet bombed at the sort of half theater, half streaming thing, AT&T could be looking at, hey, you know what? Maybe Dune will do the same thing, and maybe we should just cut our losses and just write the whole slate off, keep our stock price up, salvage some of our debt, and not spend millions more to release these movies that aren't going to do well.
Right. Well, and if they've got a long-term vision, basically they make the announcement now that you've got this big switchover, right? And there's going to be, anytime you do a switchover like that, there's going to be stuff that gets caught in the middle of the path, right?
Right.
But once you get to the other side of that and you start greenlighting stuff that you knew from the beginning was going to be done this way, then all the problems of the transition go away.
Right.
So maybe they just are willing to bite the bullet to get basically clear out those old contracts and all those old obligations.
Right. But then
plus they save a crap load of money on marketing and advertising, right?
Right. Because all you have to do is say, look, now it's on TV. And so you don't have to do a lot. And so the thing with the thing with getting rid of those, the way that AT&T handled the announcement is now they've pissed off the guy who directed Dune. They've pissed off Christopher Nolan. They've pissed off the guys who had participation in those movies, and guys who, when they release a giant blockbuster that does well, it boosts their career.
Here's the thing I don't understand, and maybe you guys can explain this to me because I'm not the smartest guy. They didn't have to make this grand announcement. Disney could be doing almost exactly the same thing, but they didn't make some sort of grotesque announcement that pissed off everybody.
I think AT&T is driven by their quarterly return, so they have to make the announcement.
Yeah, maybe.
And Disney's thing is, Disney's empire is based on all of their stuff connecting. I mean, they just redid all of their theme parks for millions of dollars to have Star Wars represent.
Which is great, right, Ryan? You've been?
I've been. Haven't done the new ride yet, but Star Wars Land or whatever you want to call it is phenomenal.
Yeah, so they need the movie theaters to bring back any sort of money from those things. But it also drives people to the theme parks to do the Star Wars rides. That also sells the Star Wars toys. That also sells the Star Wars TV shows. So all of that is already vertically integrated into the purchasing patterns of the consumer. And Warner Brothers is just doing these weird knockoff movies. Like there's no Tenet action figures, and there's no, there's not going to be.
I might start my collection though if there were.
And there's not going to be, no matter how much internet pranksters are going to do it, there's not going to be a Dune Lego set.
Oh, Ryan, did you hear that? There's not going to be no Dune Lego set.
Right. Oh no, I can't make the sandworm. And so
Lego will license, like they'll take any license. There will be a Dune Lego set.
Well,
maybe there was 10 like brick heads, but it's going to happen. I mean,
there was a Dune.
They have a freaking friends set.
Yes. Well,
yeah, Tom, you forgot about the Friends action set.
Okay. Well,
Lego.
Well, now that Dune is on your TV and your iPad, I'm sure there will be a Dune Lego set because kids love the sandworm and Baron Harkonnen.
So, what of the recent announcements, Ryan, did you like got you fired up the most? Because I mean, we've been seeing Black Widow for a long time, so I think even though we're gonna really be excited when we can actually see it, like the pre-excitement is over. But now we've got a whole bunch of other stuff to grind our gears on. I
mean, the sheer amount of information they dropped on Thursday, plus, not exactly, probably germane for the podcast or for the show, but they also had the video game awards Thursday night, so they dropped a whole crap load of video game announcements and trailers, and so I'm still sorting through everything that I was sort of looking at, but I think it's the series like She-Hulk and sort of officially confirming Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk, confirming Tim Ross coming back as Abomination.
They confirmed it was going to be a comedy. Right?
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know She-Hulk was going to be a comedy until the announcement.
That's the best way to do it, though.
I think so too. Well, yeah. They got a 7-foot-tall green woman who gets angry. I mean,
those are my. I know I'm probably alone in this, but those are my favorite issues of She-Hulk. Was when John Byrne made her sort of self-aware and funny.
Yeah. So anyway, we interrupted you, Ryan, like we always
Sorry.
do.
No, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm used to it at this point. It's okay. I just go sit in the corner and cry later. It's fine.
There you go.
Please.
But it's it's those sort of I guess She-Hulk's not obscure or random, but it's like the She-Hulk or Ironheart, right? With Riri Williams, like that's going to be, I think, really interesting to see how they, especially with what sort of the way Tony's story ended and the way some of the threads of that are going to sort of ran through Spider-Man 2, and they're going to continue, I think, to kind of run through the MCU to see how they sort of deal with a new with a new Iron Man in that way, and sort of the responsibilities with that, I think, could be pretty interesting. The Miss Marvel information that not only is she going to have her own show, but she's also going to be in Captain Marvel 2. And so now really kind of getting the TV show to movie crossovers. It's, I think, sort of that generation of character, and really sort of the ones that I maybe was slightly too old for, but we're still kind of really in my age range in a way that I can kind of really gravitate to, that I'm very interested in seeing how they handle those characters on screen. And also just from a representation standpoint too, just seeing sort of all of that diversity coming through.
Well, right. And they're not going to recast Chadwick. So I think you're going to see the girl character, right, that everybody's so hot on. I think that you're going to see her in the Panthers uniform, I think. Would be my
I think
guess.
So. Yeah. I mean, right. You have Suri take over. You can do sort of this tribute to Chadwick at the same time that you're sort of having her, figure out the legacy of what it would mean for her to be the new Black Panther, given her brother. And right, obviously, they can crib from some of the comics for that. It's just, I think they have a lot of very interesting pathos and emotion that they can play with that may have been lacking at times in some of the other films.
Yeah. Did they name who Monica Rambeau was going to be? Did they give that character a name? Because her as a superhero had like 7 names, right? It's
yeah, I mean, not that I saw.
Okay.
I mean, it could be any one of them, really.
Right, sure. Well, except for Captain Marvel.
They're just going to draw it out of a hat and say, "Oh, let's go with this one this week. Next week it could be a different one."
They won't use Captain Marvel though, probably. If I had to guess,
that would be too confusing. I would think.
That's probably the one. That's probably the one they won't use.
So they have 6 choices.
Exactly.
Well, thanks, boys. This has been wonderful. I think we've filled a beautiful show full of stuff, and we will do it again soon. So
goodbye, Dave. Goodbye, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Tom.
Cheers.
We will welcome everyone back to the tavern the next time around. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for visiting Geekview Tavern. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get notified. Come back soon.